Hey, hello everybody. It's just me right now. Chris Rogelio is finishing up his bowling. We might have some other people joining us here soon, possibly Harry, possibly Martine. I'm having interesting issues with my speaker right now. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I cannot hear myself out of my right ear, only out of my left ear. So that's fun. We uh, we were cleaning up the basement for the weekend because it's party time around the pool. But yeah, so hopefully you guys, everybody had a good Memorial weekend. It's not over yet, obviously, but the baseball games are over for the weekend, so we figured we'd do this show tonight. Um, See, we already have a couple questions there. All right, good, good. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, and it's weird. I cannot hear anything out of my right ear in from the headphones. So whatever. That's not going to stop me from talking about baseball. So yeah, pretty good week overall on the farm outside of Toledo, but we'll get into that. Um, I guess we'll answer these questions right away off the bat. I see that Dan said, "Why has Colt Keith not played on Saturday and Sunday? He has a fever. He's sick. I think there may be something going around in the Erie clubhouse. I'm not 100% positive about that, but I thought that Sawyer Gibson was supposed to start today, and then they had Adam Wolf come in and kind of do a bullpen start. Um, and but yeah, so I don't know if it's COVID or what, but yeah, he's fine. Otherwise, he's not hurt, and he hasn't been promoted. It's just the boring old illness. But yeah, I mean, we can hopefully that clears up any worries about Colt Keith. I wonder. I don't know. We can we can talk a little bit about the Tigers, can't we? I suppose. I mean, that was an awfully fun weekend series. You get a couple games where you get disappointed in the bullpen, right? The bullpen's been so good all year, and then they kind of cough up two leads. But the offense right now is just it's you don't it doesn't feel like the Tigers are ever out of it right now. It's really fun. And we were commenting about this in the Discord. Just the general quality of the plate appearances for the last couple of weeks has just been outstanding. You watch, you just feel like Riley Green, he may, not get a hit, but he's going to see 7, 8 pitches. And same goes with McKinstry. Same goes with Torkelson right now. Badu has been great. That grand slam today was awesome. So it's a lot of fun. The Tigers are playing fairly well. That crowd today was spectacular. It's been a while since we've seen some crowds like that in Detroit. So yeah, it's fun talking about the Tigers these days, and you do feel pretty good about some possibilities of reinforcements coming down the line. Maybe not Justin Henry Malloy, as we had hoped. We can talk about that in just a second. But I know some people are clamoring for maybe Colt Keith to make the double jump. Um, and Rick Kay says right there, Colt Keith has to be the number one prospect by a mile at this point. I think guys called that before the season. Yeah, this is where Raj gets to take his victory lap because he called Colt Keith the top prospect in the Tiger system last July. And it took me until after the season to kind of hop on board there. But yeah, he's a very talented hitter who right now his defense at third base is he would be like one of the three worst defenders in Major League Baseball just by some of the basic metrics. But he'd be playable. It's not like a complete disaster where you have to move him off the position immediately, and he's going to hit. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of he's really aggressive in the strike zone, so there may be a little bit of kind of a Nick Castellanos type of offensive profile where he's not going to walk a ton, but he won't, it won't be a Willie Castro, Victor Reyes issue where he's making too much contact for his own good. He's gonna hit the ball hard and he's gonna do some damage. But the pattern with Colt Keith, at least throughout the minors, has been he struggles for 2, 3 weeks, maybe a month. Not necessarily struggles, but just finds his feet when he goes to a new level, and then it kind of takes off. So if and when we see him in Detroit, I would just tell people to pump the brakes a little bit, let him find his footing, and then he'll go. But let me see. We got some more questions here. Not questions. We got Alex. Alex says you have to give credit to Scott Harris, a great pickup at fine when it comes to McKinstry. I never would have guessed that he would be this good. I don't think anybody would have, right? I mean, he like 1 for 50 at spring training, something outrageous. And the thing that cracks me up about that is it just makes me wonder, not wonder, but marvel at how good Dodgers are. They were able to kind of just give McKinstry away. Hey, we got Martine joining us. Here's a new face for you guys. Welcome to the stream. That's how you go.
Hello, can you hear me? This is
Yeah. Can you hear me?
kind of. It's all right, I guess.
All right. And yeah, it's Martine, right?
Martin, Marty.
Martin. Okay.
Yeah, I don't particular. I'm not a stickler for pronouncing it like that.
Well, thanks for popping in.
I'll see what I can do. Thank God I cleaned my room.
Yeah, that worked. Look at all those books up there. I'm hearing a little bit of an echo. I don't know if.
I can fix that. Give me like 2 seconds.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, like I said, Rogelio will be joining us soon, but he's found a passion in bowling lately. It gives him peace of mind, a little bit like the dude, I suppose. And so he said he sent me a message at like 9:15 that he was on the fourth frame of his final round. So I assume he'll be here in the next 10 minutes or so. But yeah, we were just kind of I was just talking at the people about the Tigers this weekend and how fun that was. Just to watch them out go out there and play really quality baseball against a division opponent.
Yep. I mean, I got to watch some of the games there a little bit. I didn't really like focus on them. School sucks.
Yeah.
But I have watched a bit, and yes, it's fun seeing them beat the White Sox, and they're in second place in the Central, I believe. Correct?
I'm a game behind the Twins because the Twins
You
lost.
game behind the Twins, yeah.
Yeah.
See how long that lasts. I don't.
Well, I mean, yeah, the Rangers is going to be a really big test because the Rangers have a fantastic offense this year, and you're not necessarily getting the best arms from the Tigers, but we'll see how it goes. And Nathan Eovaldi has had a really great season so far, but I was just talking about the Tigers' approach at the plate has been really outstanding for 3 weeks now. So I feel like they're going to compete.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, there was something I wanted to sort of bring up, which is Javi's K% has been absolute nonsense. So he's what? How many games into the season is it now? 47 games into the season. I'm looking at in Fangraphs right now. And back when it was about the 30 game mark, I did a thing with a couple spreadsheets where I pulled up basically every 30 game span in Javi's career, and then I like at least like a decent amount, right? And then I tried to see like, hey, where is this guy's like, what is the rate at which he hits or which he's had these kind of K percentages before? Like, how obscene is this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's 2 standard deviations from the mean. So that's like about a 2.35% chance of happening, which like is plausible, right? He's done it before, but it's one of those things where it's like, I'm going to give it time. And I mean, he's sustaining it. So
yeah, it's a really bizarre season from him because I think he might have the second or third lowest strikeout rate on the team. It's like 18.3%, 18.5%, something like that.
Yeah, let me actually look at that because that's an interesting point. Is that the case?
But he's hitting for almost no power. The ISO is like 0.65, 0.065. It's just not the sort of player I would have expected Javi Baez to be for the Tigers. But he came up big today with, I mean, sort of. He had put the ball in play and scored the tying run when Tim Anderson couldn't corral it. So that helps. But yeah, it's I don't know. I just would have imagined Javi always being like a 25 to 30 strikeout guy with power, and now he's turning into Nick Madrigal or something. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's not been terribly effective. His WRC plus is not great, but
I think it's below scope.
Somehow. Oh, it's bad. It's bad. It's worse. Right now, it's worse than last season's actually. Is he still destroying the defense defensively? By the way, I
haven't checked. The last time I looked, I think he was still top 10 for like outs above average. So
yeah, I know. Last time I looked, he was 100th percentile. He was like scope last season. Oh, he's 99th. He's crushing it.
Yeah, so it's there's still something there. It's just it was I don't know, a month ago, 3 weeks ago, it felt like he was finding it. He hit like opposite field home runs, was hitting for some power all of a sudden, and then it left again. But fortunately, everybody else seems to be picking up the slack. It's power is kind of the last remaining thing the team needs right now. Not the last remaining thing, but like they're getting on base a ton. they couldn't cash in much today run scoring position other than the Badu grand slam. So
yeah, I didn't watch today's game. So.
Oh well, all right, there you go. It was a good one. It was.
It must have been a good one. Okay, so it goes. I mean, Meadows is the lowest, but that doesn't count. And then it goes. Yeah, so he has the third lowest. He has a lower strikeout percentage than Torque, which Torque's peripherals.
Yeah, all the expected. He's like 30 points lower in every expected category, I think.
But I mean, it's exactly what I thought would happen. It's like that rise up because like I said, like I said this before, and I said this last season as well. Is like his approach was far too good to not translate at the major league level. Like if it's a mechanical thing, I think. If you looked at like his swing decisions and like the fact that he was seeing a lot of pitches per plate appearance it's a really good sign to me. Like I don't care that he was like not hitting balls because you can fix that. So that's
I mean, I think it seems like he has made some adjustments. His plate appearances have been great. He's been taking a lot of walks. It's again with him, it's like the final step is just putting the ball over the fence a little bit more, and that probably will come with time. He's been making progress, so. Yeah, it's hard to complain about a lot of stuff with the team right now. You can find things. You know, Haas has been hitting a ton, and Jake Rogers has been struggling. Ibanez went through that brutal stretch, but with McKinstry and Green and Torque and Badu playing so well, it's been enough. So, but yeah, you know, this is Mitch said today 1 for 12 with runners in score position. If that gets improved, long term, more winning.
Oh, that'll go up. That'll go up.
Yeah, that's what I said on the show the other day. Is if you keep getting on base, you're going to get more runs by default, right? It's just going to happen. The ball's going to find the grass or the seats. But I suppose, I don't know if you paid a ton of attention to the minors this week, but
not this week. No, I have been looking at stuff. Like my main thing has been I've been looking at Parker Meadows because I want to know how he's doing, and of course, Colt Keith is being Colt Keith.
Yeah. So we can get into it a little bit. I'll start with Toledo.
I can look at stuff while you do that, though, because I've been
cool.
doing it. Yeah,
it's the weird thing about Toledo is I don't even it's weird. It's just been such a brutal month. They're 6-18 in May this year. They were doing well, and then basically Justin Henry Malloy stopped hitting, and Parker Meadows and Andre Lipsius haven't been producing, and that's basically the offense for them. They had 1 home run all week as a team. Went 1-5 against Rochester. Couple solid weeks. Downey Sands has been picking things up a bit, which I've been a little bit critical. I don't like his swing, but he's been producing. He went 8 for 18 this week with a couple doubles. Tyler Nevin went 7 for 27 with a couple doubles. Corey Joyce 5 for 17 with a couple doubles and a steal. But yeah, like I said, no home runs. The only home run was from Jermaine Palacios, who was hitting I think 190, but has 6 or 7 home runs. But yeah, Malloy went 2 for 17 with 5 walks and 7 strikeouts. Meadows 5 for 20, no extra base hits and 3 walks. Lipsius 3 for 20 with no extra base hits and 3 walks. It's just the offense was not producing this week. And one thing we've kind of consistently talked about on the show is pitching there is not particularly special. Although Reese Olson had his second straight really good outing, which and it happens the same day as Joey Wentz kind of struggles again. And so people are starting to like, hey, call him up. And so that's definitely going to be a discussion point, I think, because
it's worth considering. But
yeah, I mean, the thing is, right now they don't have really another option on the 40-man other than Reese Olson. So if they had to do something, if Joey Wentz just can't get any outs, then we've talked before, like maybe they could move Tyler Alexander. He's not doing terribly well. Mason Englert has given up like 8 home runs in 25 innings. Not great. We like him, but I don't know if you can start him either. So,
but I don't know because I'd also like I said, it's worth considering, but I still wouldn't call him up right now.
Yeah,
I don't like those numbers. Those numbers are not it.
Yeah, overall in the season, he was really rough until the last 2 starts.
Yeah, I mean he's getting BABIP, but also like 370 something. That's not sustainable. But it's Give him time. I think he's still like adjusting to that, which is okay. And I mean, he's still, hell of a prospect and such. So we'll give him time, right? And I mean, may come to that as well.
Yeah,
What I'm really excited about is Kerry Carpenter coming back, because that dude he's a beast. I mean,
yeah, that's a huge. That's when I was just talking about the Tigers, the kind of the last missing link right now for the offense is power. Well, Kerry Carpenter could be that guy who gives you the pop, right?
he will be that guy. I'm confident.
So yeah, he came back on Friday and went 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts, I think, which is whatever. He hasn't played in a month. And then today he struck out in his first plate appearance again. But again, just finding his feet. And then he came up with an RBI single, I think, later in the game. Probably walked. He actually skipped a game, came back to Detroit to work on his throwing a little bit, because I think that's what we found out, right? Like, he got injured when he ran into a wall making a really nice catch. People thought it was from hitting the wall, but apparently it was from the throw after that.
Oh.
Which what they've been rehabbing it. And yeah, so, I mean, he's there in Toledo, so unless there's a setback, he'll probably be in Detroit a week to 10 days, you would think, right? So that's going to be a boon to the offense. Now, I don't know how you work him in now with the way Badu is playing. I guess it's just going to cut into Vierling and Maton's playing time some more, because they haven't been doing much.
Yeah, probably. I'm not a Badu believer, but he is playing well, so he's going to get the playing time.
He's like, look, he's walking as much as he's striking out. They're both like 14, 15%. The power has been there for a couple games now. Is he going to be this good, sustainably? I doubt it. But then I don't think Riley Green's going to be hitting 390. But you give the guys playing time when they're hot. Zach Short has been playing well, so give him a little bit more playing time, right? He's playing while they're well. Yeah, Alex asked, who do you think gets hit down when Carpenter returns? At this point, it would probably be Ibanez.
Yeah, Ibanez is what I was going to say as well.
It could be Maton. Or
I know it's probably Ibanez though, because he does. I think he needs confidence. Probably, at least that's what a manager and the GM are going to think. Probably is like, let him come down there.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, like Ibanez is kind of, you don't want to say like, well, I mean, he's kind of replaceable, right? Like he's a replacement level player. He got off to a really nice start. Has not played well over the last week or so. He's been unlucky too, but it's not a guy you invested a ton in to get, right? They signed him as a minor league free agent. So, yeah, I think it would probably be him. We'll see. But yeah, it was definitely nice to get Carpenter back. And you can, if anybody wants to, you can go see Olson's last 2 starts. We cut him up, put him on our YouTube page, so you can see how he pitched. He's kind of the same issues are still there. The fastball does not get swings and misses for him, but boy, his changeup was super effective the other day. I think he got 9 swings on against the changeup, and they were 8 whiffs. It was like an 89% whiff rate on that, and then like 67 CSW percentage. So like the changeup's really good. The slider looks like it's a little tighter now. He's locating it better off the plate. So he's picked some things up. I still think he's an Alex Lang style reliever, not as good as Alex Lang, but a reliever who's going to rely heavily on off speed and breaking balls rather than his fastball. But as we said, you may get a start there by default. So I'm trying to think what else. Nobody else was rehabbing, I don't think, in Toledo this week. No pitchers or anything like that.
I'm not the person to ask.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, so, I mean,
I did see.
I should be paying more attention, but
well, you got school, right? It's fine.
Yeah, I do exams. But look, that last week was my last full week of school. So like, the scope is hitting significantly better right now than he ever was last season. So there's that.
Well, yeah, and that's he came up with a big, I guess it's technically a sac fly. I don't know, when he drove the ball to center, really drove it and got Torkelson to third. That set up for the Eric Haas sac fly. That kind of. Just to put forth like a little meta conversation here, I was just thinking about how people have been really critical of Scope, like for all season. People were critical of McKinstry at the beginning, but the fans of Detroit, I think, are really pretty good. If you're a player and you start producing, you're showing effort and you're producing, or at least, you know, hitting the ball hard, I think that we forgive people pretty quickly. It's like,
Yeah.
Scope's hitting the ball hard now. Let's play him. Like, I think people are cool like that. So I think it's a nice fan base to have.
I mean, I also think like, should I say it? Yeah, I'll say it. It's like I think people are also very like quick to overreact in like the sense like if a player has a good game, suddenly they're like, you know, the messiah of the franchise for like the next game, and then like it swings a lot. It's volatile, just like baseball itself. But I mean, can't blame them. It is what it is.
Yeah,
you know, not everybody's gonna have the patience to wait 60 games and then be like, all right, here's what I think.
Yeah, I mean that's I think that the biggest difference between people who kind of, you know, work in baseball, actual managers and coaches and stuff, and fans, coaches. It takes a long time for managers and coaches to give up on guys. It seems like, unless you're, you know, Renato Nunez or whoever it was. Who's the first baseman they had last year? Is that Renato Nunez? I've forgotten his name, but they gave up on him pretty quickly, even though
I don't remember either.
Like
Cole Keith isn't in AAA. I mean, the jump from AA to AAA isn't that large, anyways. So I see no real issue with keeping him in Erie for a while.
Yeah, that's one of the things we've talked about is there really isn't, like you said, there's not a huge difference in the competition level between AA and AAA. You're going to find a couple more veteran pitchers in AAA, guys who've been in the big leagues and didn't quite stick, but know how to pitch.
The idea here, I think, is like, at least with Colt Keith, right, this season, the question that I had for him coming into this minor league season is like, the biggest jump in the minor leagues is high A to double A. Like, that's a massive jump. It's the biggest jump that you're going to get other than like going to the major leagues. So like, if he can hang around and like hit well consistently for like an entire season and then maybe a stretch later down the line in AAA, like, there you go, right? You're setting yourself up for next season, hopefully. So like right now he's doing that, but like I think Harris's thought process is like, I'm just gonna let him hang in there because that's what he's here to do, right? No sense like moving him. Let's just see if he can be consistent.
Yeah, I mean, there are the two things that I think there. The one we've talked about it before, where, you know, the minor league system is split into two halves, and the team that makes has the best record at the end of the first half makes the playoffs at the end of the year. So they will keep a guy at a level they have in the past, at least, if they're playing meaningful games, because they think that means something to the players for them to play in these games where your bats actually have, you know, like, hey, if we win this, we win the, you know, we get to go to the playoffs. So they like that. They like that atmosphere of playing meaningful games. So they may keep Torque there for another 3-4 weeks. They did it with Kerry Carpenter last year. So Kerry Carpenter at this time last year had like 18 home runs in AA. He was hitting like 370. It was absurd, right? He had no business being at that level anymore. But Erie was trying to make the playoffs for the first time since 2005. And so they kept him there until Erie was out of it. And then they moved him up. And so I think they could be doing that with Keith. Also, there's the fact that they do have Justin Henry Malloy playing third every day at Toledo. And would they rather just have these two guys playing every day at third base at a level that, you know, the difference isn't huge?
Negligible. It's negligible.
Yeah.
Like,
or do they want to try to shoehorn both of those guys in the same team and start moving them around the diamond a bunch? I think it's probably better for them both to be getting regular reps at third base.
Exactly. Yeah, because the main thing with, I think, Colt Keith lacks in is his defensive ability. So, like, if you can get him, and so give him those reps at third base and see if you can make him, like, serviceable. Because, like,
yeah.
And, like, this is, like, when you start really thinking about the future, is, like, I would really like Colt Keith to be a capable third baseman. Like, that would be really great, because then we don't have to worry about, like, balancing him and Torque out, because if he ended up being like a first baseman, that's a problem, because like, how do you balance that, right? Mm-hmm. So if he can keep getting those reps and get good at that makes it makes things a lot easier. So it makes sense to keep both of them playing third, where a level is negligible, like you said.
Yeah. So we can move down to Erie now. There were a couple questions higher up in the chat that I wanted to get to. That pertain to Erie. So here's one. My guy Todd Howard. He wrote, Gage Workman's offensive profile is much better than last year, and he is playing less. I'm guessing this is because of strike zone emphasis. You think they'll work him in more, or this will be the norm? So actually, they did work him in more. He played 5 games this week, which is unusual, but he also played his first 2 ever games in the outfield. So I think so did Winslow Perez this week. So they're starting to get these guys a little bit more time in the outfield. Now, it's for different reasons. I think we can discuss it a little bit. But
right. So Gage Workman, I was last season. I was notably not a fan of him. And the biggest reason for that is last season, AA, 515 plate appearances, 40% K percent. That is atrocious. Like, there's no sugarcoating that. That is, no, I don't want to deal with that. And especially with a 6.6 walk rate, like that is not good, right? And like he had like this high BABIP and all these issues. Looking at his 2023 numbers, the main thing worth noting is not only has the K percent gone down, but his walk rate's gone up as well. And his his numbers overall are just looking better. And I think it's a really good sign that his walks are going up in that sense. And like now I see the appeal, right, of this like super athletic player. And like now I'm seeing like, okay, he's gotten his walks and his strikeouts to like a point where like it's acceptable. Like it's almost good. I still think the K percent is too high, but like for what he is, like I like him as a player much more now with these adjustments.
Yeah, and so what's interesting is he got off to a really great start this year. It was the first 3 weeks of the season. He was looking really good, and then he fell off the table again, and that's when he stopped playing. He was playing once or twice a week. And from what we can figure, that kind of comes from the top. That's kind of that Gage Workman is not necessarily a Scott Harris type of player. Now, like that doesn't mean that they won't work with him and get him to keep playing. You know, that I don't think they've given up on him. But it's more like there are certain kinds of players where they basically say, we're going to give you these opportunities and you have to produce or else we're not going to play you more.
Exactly. That what you said right there is Gage Workman is not at all a Scott Harris type of player. He's just not. Same like he's like a Javi type. Like Javi and Gage Workman is like it's a really good comparison. They're like they're a very similar type of player, right? And like in a similar way, I think that story, like you can draw a parallel between the two in the sense that like they both had to sit out and then they both like, you know, started getting going after a bit again. And I think that like, and I know that the hobby benching was like Hinch directly doing it, but like that whole mentality of like produce and like, you know, have discipline or whatever. And like, you're going to control the strike zone because if you don't, we're not going to play you. Like, striking that mentality into a whole, like not just into like a few players, but like striking that entire mentality into the farm system, it's just going to build better hitters from now on, right? Because discipline is very, like, you cannot teach discipline. Like there's this quote from Moneyball from the book that I really love. That's like, if we wanted to teach hitters discipline, we'd have to start when they were babies. Mm-hmm. Like, that's exactly the point where like if like you have to ingrain it, and so starting that as soon as possible is so important to me.
We got Rogelio here. Yeah, no. Oh, did I add?
Oh no.
You sound like
your mic is not.
Yeah, you sound like a robot.
Yeah.
Oh, well, hold on. Yeah, let me get back out. Let me get back out.
Sorry, that was fantastic. That was good. No, I mean that's a good comparison. Because Gage Workman is pulled up like crazy, and when he's hot, he scares the hell. I always say this: he scares the hell out of opposing managers because they like when he's making contact. It's always hard. It's hard. It's going somewhere. It's doing damage, but he swings and misses so much that it's really frustrating. I think for them. I know that they've worked with him, you know, intently on altering his swing a little bit, but there's only so much you can do. Raj the robot. Do you want me to add you again, Raj? Nod your head. All right. Here we go. Oh, you're muted.
Oh no,
Yeah, I can hear you. You're a little quiet though.
I'm a little quiet.
Oh, now
Yeah,
you're good. You're good. You're good.
Okay,
That's
okay,
better.
all right,
Perfect. Yeah, that
Yeah.
works.
okay.
All right. So we talked a little bit about the Tigers. We talked a little bit about the Mud Hens. I don't know if you had any comments about either of those teams, but we were just about to get into Erie.
Really quick, just I'm not sure what the hell is going on with the offense in Erie. That's really my only concern because the catchers this week, it was only really Knapp and Sands that did anything of consequence.
Toledo, you meant?
Yeah, Toledo. Sorry, yeah,
Yeah,
referring to Toledo, and Justin Henry Malloy's been struggling. Parker Meadows has been okay, but against what? I mean, I don't know what was this the former Tiger Revenge Tour or something that
Oh
happened.
God, yeah.
It was between Garcia or Mars Garcia, Mazzara,
Nobody
Hill,
saw Derek
even-
Hill,
yeah, Gersa Moreno.
and Anthony Castro is on that team.
I should have texted
Willie Peralta.
Willie Peralta's on that team too?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
missed
Bruh.
that. Wow.
Oh
I got
no.
5 or 6 former Tigers.
Oh, we're getting corked.
Yeah, Willie. No, that's one of those things where it was a it's a cluster of ex-Tiger 4A players. Somebody asked me how bowling was. People don't. I hate bowling because, or no, excuse me. Tonight annoyed me because the team took forever. The other team took forever. When they go to bowl, they got to go to the bathroom somehow. You couldn't go to the bathroom before. You couldn't go get a cigarette before. Come on.
I think bowling maybe shakes everything loose.
Yeah, well, apparently so. But yeah, I bowled. Actually, I bowled really good. I will say I bowled pretty good before I went to my before I went bowling. I went to my brother's for a barbecue and I did a little bit of cornhole. So, and Stan, to ask if we have a general email address. Yes, we do. I'm gonna post it here in just a second.
Yeah. Sorry, Stan. I saw that question. And I was like, I think so. I don't know it. Raj would know. So just waiting for him to show up.
I got nothing.
But as far as Tigers go, great series win. Great Riley Green. Just continues to be what he is, a franchise player, and they're taking advantage of a crappy division. So,
Yep.
It was nice, sweet. The comebacks were fun, and the crowd was great, and so yeah, it feels good to have baseball to care about in the big leagues. And we were touching a little bit on where help might come from. I didn't mention that we did talk about Carpenter coming back, but
Yes, we did.
Scoobel is probably not super far away, like maybe another month, but
We'll see. I'm curious about Scoops. I don't.
And then you've got Meadows. Who knows? But he's
Yeah.
technically, I think, coming off the 60-day in about 8-9 days from now.
I don't know, but I'm not the most positive about Meadows' outlook.
Yeah, I'm not expecting anything they get from him now. It just feels like a bonus.
Exactly.
But again, that's another situation where we've seen these players that people were kind of upset with and just kind of have written off, and then suddenly oh wow, like Erod last year was gone forever and was okay, and this year he's been really good for the most part.
Yeah. Well, he was mentioned in Cy Young contenders for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's been pitching that well. He huge pitch today to get a double play in the 6th inning in the inning. But yeah, so we're heading down to Erie. Erie went 4-2 this week. We were just talking about Gage Workman's playing time.
Yes, he turned it around. I actually like him. Well, is strong, but he's a player that I am not nope. That I can see being a piece.
Well, so and I mentioned it before. So this week was the first time that we've seen Winsel Perez and Gage Workman in the outfield in pro baseball. And Winsel Perez, they had to do it because he basically has the yips at second base. It's rough to watch because it could be a 30-foot throw and he spikes it in the dirt or throws it over the first base. It's just in his head. And he's always been an above-average runner and a pretty good athlete. So they threw him out in center field, and he looked okay out there. I mean, it takes reps to get good at that, but he's an above-average athlete, and Workman is a plus athlete. So it makes sense to get these guys out in the field.
Oh yeah. I didn't actually know that Winslow Perez was actually having those issues. So, like, yeah, throw him out there. I mean, he can play. He can play. At the very least, he can play a corner outfield. Like,
Yeah.
average to, like, a little above average.
Hey, blood right. Roger's got the Sounders. There we go.
That ball is gone.
I hope Blood Right
Touch of
has.
all time.
Can you use these as tax write-offs somehow?
These super chats.
Yeah, I don't know. Blood Right's always giving us money. I feel. Yeah.
I'm not really sure, but
Yeah.
if you want to send in a couple questions, if you want to do a super chat with us, go for it. It goes back into the website. For example, we went out to Grand Rapids on Saturday, which we'll get to shortly. But those all that comes in there. So
you gotta tell me so I can show up with you guys on the Whitecaps game.
Yeah, that's on me. That was my fault.
I mean, I probably couldn't have shown up, so like, you're good. But like,
Yeah.
warn me so I can like at least try to like set something up, yo.
Yeah. Well, that was. We'll get to that when we get to West Michigan. But we wanted to see Troy Melton make his debut, and we did. And saw some other things, but yeah. So Erie ended up with a 4-2 week against a pretty good Somerset team. Like, I don't think the pitching on Somerset is as good as it was last year, but still some pretty. Jason Dominguez is still there. Austin Wells is there. Emerson Pereira is there. They've got a good offense, and Erie got some really good performances from their starters and a lot of offense. So that was fun. And did they start 0-2 in the series? I'm looking.
Oh, Erie or
no, Erie didn't start 0-2. I think it
Oh.
was West Michigan. But Erie did go 4-2. And the big game was, I want to say Thursday night, where they were down 5-0 and then down 6-3 and came back and won 7-6. And it was Winslow Perez hitting a 2-run homer that ended up, it wasn't a walk-off, but it was the go-ahead runs, and that's kind of kicked them off for the weekend. And then they went absolutely bonkers on Saturday night. 17 runs, I think 6 home runs in a game that didn't have Colt Keith or Dylan Dingler in it. They hit 6 home runs. So I don't know if there's anybody you wanted to highlight, Raj, or you want me to run down some numbers for you?
The only other, like, in terms of the what you just talked about Winslow Perez making the adjustment to the outfield, which was, I think, overdue, at least in my opinion, because the Yips. Trey Cruz just another turned in another solid week at OPS over close to 1,000, 3 walks at 3 strikeouts, and again being aggressive in counts, and he continues to be steady. And out of all the bats this week, outside of Colt Keith and Diogo Roconis, he had a really good week.
Yeah, 9 for 25, a couple doubles, I think, and a homer. Homer, a double, 3 walks. Yeah, like that's a guy that he's kind of the opposite of Gage Berkman, where we kind of had written him off last year, and he's really, I think, found himself back in favor of the organization this year, and he's playing really well. So that's been a positive development for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, when I talked to him via text about asking about the adjustments he made and just what he's done with his hands, it's been different. But the fact he went out the outfield, just like, hey, that's cool with me. I mean, but he had the family background. So that, again, his dad played in center field. His grandfather also played, I want to say right field or left field for Houston. I can't remember. But somebody will chat. If anybody remembers what Jose Cruz, when he played for the Houston Astros in the 80s, and of course we have the internet. My dean's already looking probably there, but nevertheless,
I don't know who this guy is. All right, give me Houston.
Yeah, he was in Houston in the 80s. It's Trey Cruz.
Oh, this is like he. Okay, here's how I'm gonna make you feel old. He started playing before my dad was born.
When was your dad born?
73.
All right, yeah.
All right,
that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
One thing, I saw Blood Right donated it, but he also made a comment, and I think we should address it because it is kind of funny. We'd show it here. Blood Right. I think I pressed the show.
Yeah.
There we go. I love Riley Green, but every time he gets close to third, I burst out laughing. Has anyone else noticed this?
Yeah. Yeah, I done it. Yeah, because when he's going to third, he always is like this. It was like a deer headlights. He's like, and he almost like he's gonna put the brakes like a cartoon, like Wile E. Coyote put it on the brakes before he falls off the bridge or something, like. And it's hilarious. I noticed that the other day.
Well, yeah, and we've
We-
talked about it ever since we saw him in the minors, where he's like an average to above average runner. Like he'll post kind of averages time in the first, and in the outfield, I think he's got like almost a 90th percentile sprint speed. But he looks slow because he runs like an old cowboy. He's like bow legged, and it doesn't make it. He's got an odd gait, and it doesn't look great. But yeah, he's a unorthodox player, but boy, is he playing well.
Yeah, and it's insane. But as far as Eric De La Rosa, by the way, back in Erie, that was another. I mean, that's not not really big development, if you will, but he has been in the development list. It's almost like they were trying to reform him or something. I'm not really sure.
You know, I'm not entirely sure how much development is actually going on with the players in the development list. I know that they're allowed to take batting practice and take infield and outfield and all that stuff. They just can't play in the games. So I don't know if it's just kind of keeping a stash of extra players in case you need them, or if they're really like, hey, this is a guy we can work with, and if you come out like Ronnie Garcia was on that and they came off, he pitched last week at Toledo. So yeah, but it is nice to see some of these guys back playing. It's been a while.
Yeah. And on the pitching side, the best week in Erie again. I mean, we talked about Grant Hurdler having another solid week. Ty Madden, it was all right. I mean, he had a couple walks, but
yeah, he battled.
Sawyer Gibson, he battled a little bit, but Sawyer Gibson long. Actually,
love that name.
Yeah.
I can't. I cannot, dude. Sorry.
That's all right.
And it's honestly like the Flores was 5 innings and no runs, only 1 strikeout, but 5 innings of scoreless, that's fine. Gibson Long, 5 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts. Herder, 5 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts.
And I think Flores was under 60 pitches too, which is efficiency.
Yo, Gibson Long though, that he's actually like pitching good. That xFIP is nice.
Yeah. So he's I compared him a little bit to Alex Faedo because he's got a really good slider at times, and his changeup can get outs too. It's his fastball gets hit kind of hard, and he struggles, I think, a little bit against lefties. But yeah, he's been pitching well enough that I wouldn't be shocked if he gets up to Toledo before long. But I think it's a situation where if they're gonna pull up an arm, I don't think they particularly care if they're in Toledo or Erie. They're just going to take the guy they think is ready.
Yeah, especially at this point too, with all the injuries. I think we talked about this off air, Chris, about how many injuries been going on in Toledo at a really kind of like I don't want to say alarming rate, but it is kind of
a lot of relievers are hurt.
Yeah, a lot of eyebrows are raised on that too, and it's like I think it's 4 have hit the IL, or I think 5 have hit the IL this month, I believe, something to that effect.
Well, I don't know when Rosenthal went on the IL, but he was on there. Del Pozo was on the IL. Kervin Castro is on the 60-day now. Keith Hembry, who they just picked up in the IL. So yeah, they're grabbing all these arms out of like Joe and Elledge, and then somebody asked a question about Lael Lockhart.
Yeah,
who they Erie grabbed him and then put him on the developmental list. He's not on the active roster at Erie just yet, but. I don't know. That was an interesting acquisition. He was a guy with really ugly numbers in the bullpen right now, but had hit well as a starter in high A and pitched decently last year, I want to say.
Yeah, for the Great Lakes, yeah.
Our buddy Brian Sikowski said that Lockhart was the best defensive first baseman for a prep player he'd ever seen, a high school first baseman, which doesn't mean a whole lot, but it's kind of interesting to know.
Yeah, there was something about his scouting report too, how well he did offensively too. It was a pretty good offensive swing with the bat. But Erie, so the one thing I wanted to mention too, I forgot to mention this, is tomorrow, usually there's an off day. Toledo does play tomorrow at Indianapolis. So out of all the teams that playing tomorrow across the Tiger system, Toledo is the only one playing. Everybody else will continue on the normal schedule with Mondays off, except for Toledo. So
and I think Toledo probably has Tuesday off, don't they?
I think so. Yeah, I believe they do.
Yeah. So sometimes you see that on holiday weekends where they'll play like, hey, spend your Memorial Day.
I have tomorrow. I have nothing, and then the Tigers aren't playing, and I'm angry.
The Tigers are playing tomorrow. Are they playing tomorrow? Yeah, 1 o'clock game against Texas. Yeah.
Are they playing? That's not what oh my god, I can't read. All right.
You got the Tigers. Oh, there you go. Positive development.
Yeah. Actually, to go on a tangent, Jose Cruz played mostly left field in Houston.
Mostly left field. Okay.
That's
All
it.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you. So-
I mean, there's like, unless I'm reading this wrong, which is possible because I don't use Baseball Reference like ever, but I'm pretty sure that's what it says. So
Yeah. I'd buy it.
yeah, no, I buy it too, considering the ages. But
Yeah.
But yeah, we went. The very first question we had right before you showed up was about Colt Keith. Why wasn't he playing today and yesterday? And I told people he's sick, a little under the weather. He still had a great week when he was healthy. What did he go 7 for 16? What did he? Let's see. Yeah, 7 for 16 with a double and 3 walks. Like, yeah, he's hitting at an elite rate right now. So hopefully he gets better soon. Gets these 3 days off and is back to hitting hard line drives and fly balls everywhere.
Yeah. So yeah, we got it was funny because I had some people on Twitter DM me, is Colt Keith okay? So I was just like, or I looked and I was thinking about it, and so then I just I messaged my source, and so he had a fever, so that was the only thing that was going to keep him out. There's nothing else.
Fair.
Colt Keith.
Yeah.
So
I got a fever. Yeah,
No, yeah, I can't let that hurt his numbers.
So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to cover there in Erie. We mentioned all the stars. Montero had a decent start. Madden had a decent start today. It was a bullpen day. They brought Adam Wolf out of the bullpen, and he pitched pretty well. But he kind of ran out of gas there in the 3rd inning, and it was you don't really expect to win bullpen games, and they did kind of give it away toward the end. But still, 4-2 week, pretty good. I think still in first place. So that's key. That's why those guys are down there competing. But we can drop down to the Midwest League now and talk about West Michigan.
Yep.
Who also had a good week. They were the ones who started 0-2 and then finished the week with 4 straight wins against a pretty good Lake County team. Like, Lake County is always good because Cleveland always has interesting prospects. But they.
thank you. Yeah, Javi Baez in our chat says the Tigers have Thursday off and they play tomorrow. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Javi Baez, for coming to our chat. But
speaking of Lake County was when we saw him on Saturday, it was not we mentioned we saw Friday, Ethan Hankins, and I remember all this hype about him, and he just kind of, I don't know, man, he did not look good to me. No,
he didn't. Ethan Hankins was heading into his high school senior season. It was the 2018 draft, so the one when the Tigers took Casey Mize, and Hankins was so good as a junior on the showcase circuit, and kind of had an epic performance against Korea in a World Baseball, not the World Baseball Classic, but in international play, that people were discussing him as an actual possibility as 1-1, which has never happened, for a right-handed high school pitcher.
Really? That's surprising.
Yeah, well, it's always, the injury risk. There's only been, I think, 1 or 2 high school lefties that went first overall. Brian Taylor.
Oh, you mean lefties? Okay.
No, there's never been a high school righty though. There've actually been a couple lefties, but never been a high school righty.
Really? Even back in the medieval ages, they would. Wow. Honestly, that is like that shocks me. I actually, wow. Okay. I didn't know they knew that. Honestly, with like what I know about how dumb they were back then, like that honestly is like that baffles me. I should give them like
there's still
a little bit more credit, but like not too much.
So the first one being David Clyde was the first one, the lefty, high school lefty, drafted by the Texas Rangers in 33.
Oh, is that the dude that they made debut at 18 or whatever, or is that and like just completely ruined him?
Yeah, they were dumb. It's funny. I've done a lot of research on draft stuff through Baseball Reference. That's a great place to go if you want to look at old.
Yeah, it is. I just don't.
And basically, anything before like 1980, nobody had any idea what they were doing drafting. Other, the Tigers had some drafts that fan like Dodgers, but there were so many like, what the hell were you guys doing? Like, we took 7 straight high school shortstops. Like, all right, none of them made the majors. Like, okay, I don't know what the plan was here, but. In any event, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, Whitecaps. So yeah, we can discuss that. We went out there on Friday night. Raj got to join Dan Hasty in the booth, which is always fun. I haven't gone back and listened to that because that was the long Troy Melton inning.
Yeah, that was a for me. If I had to grade myself in the booth, I did okay. I rambled a little bit too much, and I said Olafhagen's name wrong. I think once, which is like, man, I knew I was really working on trying to say it correctly. And Dan asked me on the spot about some of the because I did the mock draft for Fansided, so I thought, I mean, I made my mock draft. I had Dylan Cruz going to the Tigers at 3 because the Pirates are just gonna. I feel like the Pirates are gonna do something wacky and just surprise everybody at number 1. But as far as what we saw down in West Michigan, I came away. It was the first time since the trade for Allen,
Logan Allen, yeah,
Logan Allen, and he looked really good. Like he had, I think he had 3 hits. I think he had 3 hits, and he had a really good catch too. It was a Lakeland on Lakeland crime, where he robbed Jake Fox, who he played against in high school in Lakeland, and that was totally I had no idea of that until on Twitter when we posted that clip. But I came away impressed with his glove, his hat. Again, is he going to be is he a dude? I don't know. I don't really think so at this point, but it was good to see him. But the bats I came away impressed with was Roberto Campos, who had a single, and he also had a double, and it was an opposite field double where he kind of like just almost like I don't want to say he came off the end of the bat, like not in the barrel of the bat, but just like I felt like it was like on the handle, and he just smoked it. And I thought he did a really good job hitting the ball, and got to continue to be impressed with Campos.
Yeah. So Allen, that first one, he went 7 for 18 this week with a home run, 3 walks and 8 strikeouts. And yeah, I think he's just a really quality minor league baseball player. He's improved that team a great deal just by being really well rounded. Like you said, I don't know if there's a plus tool there that will carry him to the big leagues, and he may struggle once he gets to Double-A. But he's made the Whitecaps a better team, so that was fun to watch. Tycap wants to see a link to your mock draft.
Yeah, I could do that.
But yeah, Campos, it was funny. Campos went, I think I was just looking, 3 for 14 this week. 3 for 14. We saw 2 of his hits, but he also walked 4 times to 1 strikeout. And that is the main thing that continues to surprise me with Campos for being such a young dude. He has a really good idea of the strike zone. Like he will chase occasionally on a breaking ball, kind of low below the zone or away. But you're not getting him with a fastball above the zone. You're not getting him with a fastball inside. If anything, he just needs to work on which pitches to swing at in the zone. But he makes hard contact to all fields, like Roger's saying. It was a hard double down the right field line. They were playing 15 feet off the line because right-handers don't hit there, right? Well, he does. And the overall numbers don't look spectacular. But every time we watch him play, I come away really impressed. So I think Tigers have a pretty good one there. We did go out, though, to see Troy Melton. And he only pitched 1 2/3 innings, unfortunately.
No.
You can also see that on our Tigers Minor League Report YouTube.
Great
page.
content.
But you know what? His first inning, 11, 12 pitches, I think almost all of them I think he threw 1 ball.
Right.
That's
it was the first 12 pitches. It was first 12 pitches were all, bad. Yeah.
And he was 95 to 98. Mostly 96, 97, hit 98 a couple times.
Solid.
Dropped down to 95 a couple times. He flashed a pretty good changeup once, got his first strikeout on a changeup. And then broke out some nice kind of 79, 81 mile an hour breaking balls there in the second inning. But he just kind of lost the strike zone, particularly with his fastball. And what really hurt him was he got a comebacker right to him and picked it up. Not right to him, it was to his right, I think, like sort of near the third baseman, but it was Melton's play. He picked it up and just kind of threw a sinker to first base that got by, and then it was men on second and third with nobody out instead of a man on second with 1 out. And he ended up hitting his pitch limit, 30 pitches in that inning because he lost the strike zone. So it was kind of a bummer, but you see flashes of the talent right there.
Yeah.
A big arm,
that sounds good.
showed some secondaries. It's have to find the command.
Yeah, and the one thing about his start too, and by the way, Jerry's joined us too as well. Jerry,
Yeah, I'll add Jerry. Are you
yeah, I just added Jerry to the stream. We'll get to Jerry here in a second. No, I came away with the fact that I think almost exclusively all 11 pitches were fastballs, and then he started throwing that slider, which was kind of a short slider. Didn't do much at first, but started getting a little better. But it's gonna. I still think he has a reliever profile risk to him.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it just because of his. I mean, the big arm is there. The spin. I looked at the spin rate later. It ended up being pretty solid, but it just. It's gonna take some time.
It's a starter. It's a starter's body. You know, he's 6'4", well built. The delivery seems okay. Like it's not super violent and uncoordinated or anything like that. I just think he just lost his release point. It seemed like he kept missing the fastballs either up and away or down and in. Like he couldn't find the happy medium. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Like he kind of reminds me. I've said this before. He kind of reminds me of Ryan Perry in terms of his size and his fastball. And Ryan Perry was probably long before Martin was paying attention to baseball, but
certainly before I was paying attention to baseball. But
that makes me very sad. Not for you, just for my own mortality. You weren't missing anything. But anyway, we can bring Jerry in.
06 is a great year. I don't know what you're talking about.
I do want to move on to what Dan and I were talking, or we were talking to Dan Hasty about was how so Dan mentioned this, and it was on, I think it's on their website too, where he ended up talking to Jack O'Loughlin, and he didn't want to ask him. He's like, so didn't want to ask him about the pitching streak, and he's like, the inning streak. He's like, yeah, I want to talk about it. It was kind of a superstitions thing, and he had another good week, another strong start for him. He's trying to figure things out. He's hitting 96 on a gun, which was kind of blew us away a little bit.
Yeah, he's got 20 consecutive scoreless innings. And we joked about it a couple weeks ago because one of them was like, he had gave up 10 hits, but somehow didn't give up a run. But yeah, we watched the last couple starts, and I know we talked to Scout last year who really liked him, but Scout knew him from Scout had coached in Australia, so he knew him from that. But yeah, it's I mean, he's 6'5", I think 6'3", somewhere. He's a big kid. Strong, and he's always had pretty good feel to spin the ball. It's I think his best pitch probably slower curveball, which is not necessarily what you want, but he can throw a decent slider, and the fastball is getting in the low 90s like Raj said, and touching the mid 90s. So yeah, he becomes kind of a pretty interesting player. He's only 23, I think, so it'll be I'm curious if we see him in Erie later this year. There's kind of some similarities to Brant Herter to me in terms of big-bodied lefty who just getting guys out.
Yeah, I definitely see the similarities with that too. It's just a matter of can he get more swing and miss stuff on his fastball, and that's the same thing with Hurler. If they're going to advance at the next level, is if they have to get that kind of. And I haven't seen enough of Jack to kind of make the decision about the swing and miss stuff, but. It's a good thing because again, it's one of those things you and I talked about off. They have the Erie pitching coach this year in West Michigan, and it's paying dividends. You can see that firsthand with some of what they're getting out of the performances. I mean, in terms of for example, Gary Burhan, who by the way had a decent start and he hit 3 walks in the start, but it's. There's a difference in how they're approaching pitching this year in West Michigan versus last year, I think.
Yeah, it's Dan Rickleball he was the pitching coach in Erie last year, and yeah, we've seen Burhan. I think his stuff is up a little bit. Like you said, Montero's stuff was looking good. He got promoted. O'Loughlin's stuff is looking good. Yeah, so it's I think even Wilkell has looked okay occasionally. Kind of hit and miss with him, but. Yeah, it's paying dividends for him, and so the pitching was solid this week. The offense, we talked about Allen. Josh Crouch is back to hitting over 300. He's hitting like he did last year.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Josh Crouch, but I couldn't figure out a way to bring him up.
Yeah, well, it's one of those tough things. You talked about it earlier, Martin, was the jump from high A to double A. and
Yeah.
he just looked lost in Double A. And
Yep, because I remember him really well because last year I have a friend who works for the Whitecaps, and he was like what are your thoughts on Josh Crouch? And I was like, who the heck is that? And then I see this dude who's like hitting 130 WRC plus, and I'm like, wait, who is this guy? Right, but yeah, I mean.
He's got to do it at Erie. That's all it is to it.
Yeah, but which is going to be tough. Like that's again same thing with Colt Keith. So just give him time, and we'll see.
But yeah, and we there's some other solid performances in West Michigan. Chris Myers continues to hit the Toledo product. He's not playing every game, but when he plays, he produces. I think he might have the highest WRC plus in the organization right now.
I can check that if you want me to.
Danny Soretti had a good week. He had struggled a little bit, but he went 6 for 18 with 3 doubles. Solid week. Ryan Kreidler. We saw Ryan Kreidler in his first rehab appearance. He had 3 hits that night, I think.
Yeah, he had 3 hits. Yeah.
Looks like he went 3 for 9. So he saw all 3 of his hits, but a double, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. It's nice to see him. And that double was a hustle double. Like it was kind of a gapper. And he really ran it out, which was nice to see because he's down there for his knee, right? So he didn't seem to be bothered by it at all. He wasn't running, 100%, but he wasn't favoring it, I don't think.
Yeah, I was scared. I was not scared, but just kind of like, ooh, he went on that knee there. And so I was kind of, when he slid, it was kind of like, ooh, I was slightly nervous. But the wrap up West Michigan, I do wanted to bring Jerry on to talk about his Joey Wentz article because he posted it on Saturday on Joey Wentz's start. Wentz did not look good, but he pointed out something relatively quickly. And Jerry, first and foremost, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. We've been enjoying your player profiles. And in terms of like his release point, how much, when you see this and when you graph it out, how much of a difference does that release point make for him to throw strikes? Because, I mean, it sounds like a really obvious question, but it's just a matter of is it just really a matter of inches, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. The graph I posted on there was kind of zoomed in to kind of give people a better view of the differences between the 2 years, but even still zoomed out, it's a fairly significant thing. What it looked like to me last year, when at the arm slot he was using last year, he was able to locate that fastball more so it would be inside to right-handed hitters. He had a lot of that going on, and this year he seems to just be focusing at the heart of the plate, which I mean, great. Hitters are gonna feast on that. I think last year he gave up 2 home runs and neither were on the fastball. This year he's already given up 9 and 5 of them have been on the fastball.
Yeah, and it's not that cutter either, too, right? I mean, the cutter that was a pitch that really worked for him well last year, especially getting on the inside part of the plate. And I was kind of surprised. I've been actually really surprised he has not been able to establish that at all.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I imagine it's a lot of people or a lot of players are probably recognizing this and just sitting there waiting for that fastball to come right across the plate. And just, when you don't have to, or when you can wait for the pitch you want, you're not going to swing at these pitches that are going to be outside. You're just going to wait and focus on that. And it's hurting.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point because, if you remember last year, it was kind of that combination of throwing the fastball inside and the cutter inside. And it was just eating right-handed hitters up. And then he'd come back with a slow curve. Or the changeup, and he was having a lot of success. And what makes you wonder is, okay, what's causing this deviation? What's the problem? Is there an injury there? Is there an alteration to his mechanics? What's happening? I don't know if you have any theories on that.
I don't know. I was kind of talking to Brandon Day a little bit about it too, and he said that they've been kind of playing with his arm slot a bit since Tommy John. So this could just be a part of that, which I kind of hope not because it's been 9 starts now. So you'd think they would be able to correct whatever issues they have with that, or at least get him back to the previous arm slot.
Yeah, because that's where last year when he started from that cutter that was the most successful about it was that they were playing with that even as early as last year too.
Mhm.
So, and this was when he was coming off his injury. So I'm not sure why if it worked for them then, why would they change it now? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, and I don't want to jump to conclusions, Ritter, but they brought in Jesse Lund, who was kind of a pitch whisperer, right? The guy at Iowa, and probably he has a lot of ideas for a lot of different pitchers. And I don't know, they may have found something that they thought they could improve with Wentz, and it's not quite clicking, or maybe not. I don't know. Like I said, I'm jumping to conclusions there, but I would think, with the pitching coaches and these pitching analysts, you're going to always try to help these pitchers get better.
Right.
So something.
Well, what I found really interesting was, he gained extra extension, and he also gained 1.5 miles velocity. So you would think that between the two of them, it would be a harder pitch to hit. But if he's not locating it where he needs to, like he was last year, that's an issue.
Yeah, we see that all up and down throughout the minors. We talked about Reese Olson earlier, a guy who's got visually pretty good stuff, and the numbers back it up, but too often it's right over the heart of the plate, and it gets bombed, and that's big leagues is very hard for pitchers are really good, and the hitters are really good, and if you make a mistake, they're going to punish you, and if you make a mistake over the heart of the plate, they're going to punish you maximally.
And another interesting thing too, his cutter spin rate's actually up a lot. I mean, it's up almost 2,400 compared to the 2,200 from last year. And I know.
What about the active spin is what I was going to bring up, because. Oh wow, that is interesting.
Yeah, his curveball saw some great spin as well. And and the weird thing is his arm slot changed for all of his pitches, it seemed, but it's really just the fastball that's getting clobbered.
Well, I was gonna note, but the one thing is, I was just looking at his release points, and it's only like 0.3 feet of a difference, but it is like the average release point of his four seam is 0.3 feet like higher than on average than all his other pitches. So maybe that's enough to make a difference, but I'm not entirely sure.
No, I think you're onto something with that, Jerry. But in terms of, and both of you guys are discussing this at a point where it's even like the changeup, though. That's the one thing that's interesting to me, that he's getting good. They're not hitting his changeup. Last year was kind of sometimes they would hit that pitch hard, but they haven't hit that pitch yet either. So it just could be to me, send Olson up for Wentz doesn't make a lot of sense. I know that he's had 2 good starts in a row, but it has to be a matter of consistency. So let's breeze through Lakeland pretty quick, Chris, because I feel bad. I feel bad because every week I feel like we're like, oh well, Lakeland, it's kind of like an afterthought, but it's not much going on. It's kind of.
I think Carlos Pellegrin is a guy that maybe people might want to know a little bit about. He's another international guy. He's one of the 2 Cubans they got. I think they got him the same year they got Lazaro Benitez, but Pellegrin is a bigger, more athletic player who's starting to perform a little bit. So he's a guy just kind of keep an eye on. I think he went 6 for 17 this week. Jose De La Cruz hit a home run this week. Christian Santana came back from the IL. He didn't do terribly well, but he did hit a home run. I'm trying to look. Did he go 1 for 16?
Yeah, that's what I got. Yeah,
1 for 16, 5 walks, 9 strikeouts, and a home run. His swing is still troublesome. Abel Bastidas made his A-ball debut this week. Went just 2 for 16, but he did have a triple. And only 2 strikeouts, no walks. So they're folding some more interesting guys in there gradually. Tyler Johnson, the unsigned or undrafted free agent out of Coastal Carolina, hit his first pro home run today, so that was kind of fun for him. He's a first baseman. I'm trying to think. Anybody else? Peyton Graham hit a homer, 6 for 21, stolen base. He's been playing better lately, I think. He was under 200 for most of the year, but I think he's improved a little bit. But
goes to say Cole Patton had a pretty good start too.
Yeah, he was their 17th rounder last year.
Yeah, out of Villanova. Yeah.
Villanova, yeah. but yeah, and so I think Chance Kirby was rehabbing down there. Manuel Sequeira went on the IL. So there's, we're trying to keep abreast of these player movement things. Joe Miller had a decent relief outing of one of the starters. Max Green had a 2-inning outing, I think, the other day. So they're trying to ramp him up a little bit. But
progress. Yeah, Seth Geringer or Geringer. Can't even say his name right.
Who is it?
Seth, the free agent they signed out of Florida.
Trying to
G.
Gunther? Oh, Sean Gunther.
Yeah, Gunther. Yeah, Gunther.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
he's rehabbing down there still.
Yeah, and like I said, Kirby is too. So yeah, it remains not the terribly exciting game, but they did. Yeah, they went 3-3 this week. Fortunately, they're at Daytona, which doesn't have the StatCast data. I think it might be the only team in the Florida State League that doesn't.
Yeah,
which is annoying because we had Santana home run, we had the De La Cruz home run, we had the Grand home run. Like, hey, let's get some data on these, but nope, sorry. But
is it Lake County? Is it Lake County too? Lake County doesn't have any.
Well, Lake County doesn't have broadcast.
Yeah,
and they didn't send any radio people to West Michigan for the week, so we could have just been camping out in the visitors' radio booth and calling the game. But we were discussing doing that last year, I think.
Yeah,
calling a game live just to run. But
yeah, just to maybe possibly just to, as Dan said, we could do something like that if we wanted to. But no, it's overall Lakeland's gonna get more interesting. I think next month. I think you're gonna start seeing some as soon as some guys come back from the IL. They have also too been getting in terms of arm wise. I think have 2 or 3 pitchers on the IL right now.
Yeah, so I don't. We had one question in the on below the tweet, but it was basically about what do we think about the rule changes this year? I don't know if you have any opinion on that. I mean, as they apply it, this is basically the rules we saw in the minors last year, so it's no big deal.
There's not really. I mean, it's.
I mean, if we're gonna talk about the rules, I think the rule changes. Again, I don't watch nearly as much minor league ball as you two, right? I think a lot more about the majors and but the changes that I have seen have all been extremely positive.
Without the
rules
shift,
are great.
The shift. I was gonna say the biggest one I like so far is the no shift rule. Seems
that honestly kind of surprises me because that's the rule that I feel the most indifferent about. I don't know. I don't really I think it takes away from the game in some ways, and I think it adds to the game in some ways. I think to me, it's very similar to the DH, the universal DH rule, where I think it takes away from some aspects, but it adds to some aspects of the game as well. So in that sense, it's just a matter of preference. But I think the biggest thing for me is the pitch clock and the bigger bases has just been such a powerful combination to make the game more entertaining. And I'm really curious, what stealing and other stuff is going to look like in terms of value and how much teams abuse it. And I really want to see what this looks like in 2 to 3 and even 5 years into the future. Where are we at? Are we gonna get an explosion as big as we've seen before? And is it gonna continue to increase like this? Hopefully that's the idea.
Yeah, it's one thing that I'm kind of fascinated by, and I haven't seen if anybody has really dug deep into this yet, but there have been kind of whispers. We talked about it on the show last Thursday about there's certain pitchers who seem to be really affected by the pitch clock. Pitchers who were really good last year, like Alek Manoah and Corbin Burns, who are struggling this year. Now, Manoah's struggling mightily, but Burns is having trouble this year, and they've upped their pitch time from 21 seconds to 18 or 16. A big difference. And I don't know if anybody's done a deep dive on that or not, but that kind of fascinates me because I can see how that would bother somebody. If you're used to your whole routine and you've got I get the ball and I take 5 deep breaths or something like that. Now you can only take 3, and it seems to be affecting some guys, but maybe that's just noise.
Adapt or die.
Yeah.
That's
There is one real change we've seen in the minors. Is that you, Jerry?
Oh, you're good. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention, and some people have seen it. We posted a few videos of this about the challenge system that is available now in AAA. It was down in high A last year, or low A, but you couldn't really see it because not many of those games are 12 eyes. But the challenge system has been interesting. I don't know if you guys have all seen that, and what do you think about it?
I like it.
Well, I was going to say that's actually the one rule change that's kind of interested me in all of baseball is that challenge system. I feel like that could be manipulated more than anything from really smart front offices and managers.
What do you mean by that? Like, can you give me like a specific examples? Because I'm curious what you mean.
Well, they could challenge all sorts of all sorts of calls and really change the outcome of a game. If they challenge a pitch that is a 2-2 in a 2-2 count that was called a strike, they could challenge it and get it changed into a ball. Now it's a full count, and the hitter could make that get into a better count, get a better pitch, get the hit.
Well,
Sorry.
that's the entire purpose, right? Is to make it more fair
Right.
and to like make those situations less egregious or not egregious at all. Like, I don't think that adds any kind of controversy.
I think it does. I mean, well,
No.
in terms of controversy, what would have been cool today if the instant replay would have been used for the double play today in Erie. I don't know if anybody saw that or not, but it was a very bad call. They got him so it was in the ninth inning. Erie had a runner on, and I think it was, I want to say, I forgot who hit the ball, grounder too short, got him at second. The ball is clearly pulled off the bag when they throw the ball at first. His foot was even on the bag. They called it out. And the first base coach was ejected because he was like, he basically pointed out, hey, his foot wasn't on the bag. And then instant replay would have been nice there. I'd rather have something like that. I mean, the pitch call stuff is cool. I do like that, but don't get me wrong. But I would have loved to see a challenge there for a team.
Well, I think
in the big leagues.
Yeah. And I also think the biggest issue for that in the minor leagues is that, like, logistically, it's just like it's so much harder to set up for a minor league game. Like, it's not worth it, right? Because you need so many cameras and angles to make that work. Because baseball is not a sport that is just not reasonable to have it for minor league games. Right. I think. Whereas, like, I think, ironically, despite the technology being arguably more complicated for the like challenge system, like that's ironically way more portable and like logistically feasible to have across the minors.
Yeah, because you've just all the Hawkeye systems are already set up.
Exactly.
So you've got it all there. But yeah, I mean, so we've seen a couple of those. There was a fun one where Parker Meadows had a 10-pitch at bat, and they called him out, and he challenged it, and that kicked off a rally. There was a game, I think the next game I mentioned before, I want to say Omaha challenged 8 pitches and got 6 of them right. So that ump was having a really bad day. Now the only question is like, okay, but you have the technology to get every single call right, and without taking the time to challenge, right? Like,
sure.
I do think the challenge thing is fun, but is it better to just get every single call right with the computer, or is it better to have players keep a little bit of that framing, human element, umpire aspect, and then kind of have a fun challenge? Everybody's like, oh, what happened? It does seem fun, but I don't know if it's the best for baseball or not.
Right. That's a really interesting and complicated issue. I mean, so I play tennis and I watch a lot of tennis.
Yeah.
Right. And like that has a lot of parallels. So like now most tennis tournaments, if not all of the major ones, have switched completely to an automated system. And like personally, it hasn't made much of a difference to me. But I think in baseball, like, I guess it's more of an argument of like, how much does framing matter in terms of the challenge system? Because I think right now you have to keep the challenge system going for at least a couple of years, because the thing is with the way that the game is coached right now, switching to fully automated strike calls, I think would screw over a lot of catchers. I think because like, I don't know. I'm thinking of Jeff Mathis because of Foolish Baseball, but like Jeff Mathis would not have been a high A player if automated strike zones existed, right? Which is why I think that you need to soften that transition and like start it with like the challenge system where like, hey, framing is still relevant. It's less relevant now, so we're gonna focus on it less. But if that's your skill set, it still is useful, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna screw them over, and then slowly you're gonna be able to transition that way. You can start at like the lowest levels and then slowly shift it up, and that'll be good.
That's a good
So I
point,
think
yeah.
I think that's the idea. I think that's what you want to do. Now, if you want to keep framing, that's a whole nother issue, right?
Right.
Where like I think we could easily have gone on without robots. Like it's infuriating, but like I think we could have gone
Well,
without them.
and I do wonder if, baseball seems to be constantly seeking more offense. And if you want to do that, then if you get rid of the catchers who can't hit a lick but are so good at framing, you start getting like, the Mike Piazzas of the world again, where guys are just like, hey, he's got a strong arm, he can catch the ball, and he hits a ton. Like, who cares about, him pulling the ball and getting extra strikes for his pitchers?
Yeah,
That may be where they go eventually, but I do think that, Martin, I think you're right about a transition period is needed because so many teams have. The framing is quantifying framing is a relatively new thing, like the last 10 years or so. And so teams have been trying to lean into that because it's super valuable. And to suddenly switch course might screw up some stuff.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I think, and the automated strike zone would have made it, and Edward's correct about that. Like the call on Torkelson today was ridiculous. But do you also notice too that they have, it was strange enough, there's something pointed out a couple weeks ago, or actually earlier this week on Twitter, that Angel Hernandez has not umped a game since like early May.
Yeah, that was really funny.
I think he's got an injury. Back
Oh, he's got an injury? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's back
Yeah,
injury?
I don't
Okay.
think.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I wasn't sure if it was something to do with anything else, but anyway, let's wrap it up. Thank you so much for listening to the Tiger Minor League Report podcast, and check out our latest. Tomorrow I'll have the weekly recap written out, of course, at tigersmlreport.com. Jerry, is there anything you got coming out this week?
I'm gonna get another player profile uploaded tomorrow, but I think this one might be behind the Patreon.
All right.
So
So we got some Patreon stuff coming up. So go to our Patreon if you want to subscribe. Patreon.com/Tigers Minor Reports. And go, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. Tigers Minor Report on YouTube.
Yes. I will have an article soon. I promise that. Exams are coming up. Like, if nothing else, I promise you that I will start working on my mid-season 3,000-word essay on every single player on the Tigers.
There you go.
Yeah. No, and it's by the way, I just wanted to promote the book that we're doing. We did an interview with Roger Yoder, and if you want to get the book, Ultimate Tiger Series, Detroit Tigers, Michigan's favorite sports team, got a bunch of stats in it, and I'll be putting the link and the podcast that we had them on tomorrow for Memorial Day. So thank you everyone who has served, and I really appreciate it. And we thank everybody who's listening, and we will talk to you later this week. Have a good week, everybody.
Yep.